Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 152 of the Dudes and Beer podcast, coming to you via simulcast between Houston and Austin right now. I am Christopher Jordan, your host. I am presently on show site in Houston, Texas, working an annual corporate gig that I have. It's actually the gig that made me go corporate and made me get out of rock and roll. I absolutely love this show. It's one of my favorites. It's crazy hours. It's crazy tech. It's crazy conversations with people. And that's kind of what inspired this episode tonight with my good friend Stephen Bishop. Steve-O, what's up?
What's up, dude? Hey, man.
Live from the cave in Austin, Texas,
I'm
my
live
friend.
from the man cave, holding it down, holding it steady.
That's it, baby. The stalwart. That's why I call you stalwart, man. You should look that word up sometimes because it means like utterly dependable. It means like it will not fail. It will not let you down.
There you go.
And,
you hit it on the nail.
We are celebrating episode 152 tonight, and folks, that means we are slowly creeping up on 3 years. And I want you to know, for those that are tuning in just now, or those who may have forgotten, Steve-O has been here since episode 2,
Woo!
entitled "Lions and Tigers and Bears." Oh my!
Oh my!
Or Lions and Tigers and Beers. Oh my, is what it was. He told some crazy stripper stories. It was great.
God.
And it was absolute class, man. It was the beginning of Dudes and Beer, like solidifying and like gelling as something. Because I remember seeing you the next week and being like, "I want you on my show." I think I may have told you that night when you left I wanted you back.
You know that's really straining the brain to remember on that the ending of that night.
It's been the birth of one of the best friendships of my life.
Exactly.
And I just want to thank you for that, bro.
Oh, man.
we've had 3 amazing years, some crazy adventures, covered some crazy stories.
Sure have.
And that is honestly, folks. Steve-O, go ahead and hit that typewriter sound effect there for me.
Oh, the typewriter.
Yeah. Go to the
Wow.
sound effect. Steve-O is running the show right now, folks. His first time running the tech for Dudes and Beer. But hit that typewriter sound effect for me. Because it is now time for the Dudes and Beer Week in the News. It's something that we kind of started originally with Dudes and Beer, folks, was the whole idea, of course, is that Dudes and Beer is a discourse on society. It's a discourse on America. At one point in our country, people spoke freely about religion and politics and economics and personal beliefs while sitting at the pub or the public house and having beers. And that's what begat our revolution against tyranny and everything.
Without getting pissed off.
Was good. Well, no, you were allowed to get pissed off, but you came back the next day and you're still people. It's okay. I'll still sit at the bar next to you and we'll talk again.
Right, exactly.
You know, like it wasn't crazy sauce stuff like what's happening now. And the original concept with that in mind was that it was an open discourse. Nothing was forbidden. You could not call people names. You could not belittle somebody's idea. And at the same time, bring a six-pack and bring a topic. Bring something to talk about.
I don't think it was so much that you couldn't. I think you could, but it was the fact that they didn't. And they were a little bit more like, open-minded and understanding of the other type of person's view, maybe.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. It was the age of enlightenment, dude. That's some of the best philosophy that we know, at least as modern philosophy was written right up around that time.
Exactly.
So that's where the week in the news comes from, is kind of returning to a little bit of the roots of Dudes and Beer, where, hey, everybody bring in a news article and a topic to talk about, and we'd talk about crazy stuff that was going on, like when the head of Samsung came out and said, if you've bought a smart TV in the last 5 years, it's been listening to every word you say.
Oh, yeah.
and that was 3 years ago when we started this show, Stephen, that was officially released. So that's the kind of stuff, and it's like, you know,
It's like the other day for me.
Like, imagine, Stephen, like, we've started this as a blog now. All of the really awesome articles that we post on the Dudes and Beer Facebook group are now posted on dudesandbeer.com as the Week in the News blog. So if you go to dudesandbeer.com/news,
yep, I'm on it right now.
That will take you there, and you'll see all the posts from every week. And these are basically like a selection of the impactful articles that we post on the Dudes and Beer Facebook group to spur conversation and spur dialogue in this country and amongst our friends and amongst our peers. So every one of them is a hot link. You can go and read the full article. It's got the title there, the source, and just a little blurb. So let's get into it, because the real theme of this show tonight is based on the first title, Out of Gizmodo. I'd like to thank James Samange, our good friend James Dancer.
Very talented guy.
Woodworker, hopefully coming on the show again soon.
Yes, I got to buy a bowl.
He just got active on Facebook again, and he posted this in the Dudes and Beer group today, and that is the title out of Gizmodo, that Google is helping the Pentagon build AI for drones. Google has partnered with the United States Department of Defense to help the agency develop artificial intelligence for analyzing drone footage. A move that set off a firestorm among employees of the technology giant when they learned of Google's involvement with the federal government. Next headline is out of KTLA 5 out of Los Angeles. Flippy the burger flipping robot is now cooking the Cali Burger fast food chain. Your next fast food burger might be cooked by a robot, folks.
Oh my
Flippy
God.
is a brand new burger flipping robot now cooking at a chain called Cali Burger, which serves up California style burgers and fries.
Love it.
Out of the Hollywood Reporter, we have TV ratings. Oscar dropped to an all-time low of 2.65 million viewers. You know, we all know what the Oscars is. We don't really need to go into it. But what's important is that number. Because as someone who worked as a person in broadcast, Steve-O, I'm here to tell you, 26.5 million people turns out to be like you know,
what?
we got 50 states in the union. Yeah. So you're looking at less than 500,000 people per state. Tuning in. That's not really good numbers.
Nah.
For like one of the top 5 shows on American broadcast as far as rating and demographic across all demographics go. So we'll see what develops with that. We'll see what Hollywood brings with all kinds of stuff and what else turns out from it. From the Tech Times, scientists may have found evidence of fossilized alien tracks on Mars. An astrobiologist discovered evidence of life on Mars after studying images taken by NASA's Curiosity rover. Barry DiGregorio, an honorary research fellow at the University of Buckingham, found the tracks and indicators of life. The scientist has a professional and personal interest in the search for life on the planet Mars. Live Science tells us that DARPA wants to freeze soldiers on the battlefield. The new program is actually going to be used to freeze certain parts of the body so that it's called biostasis. You can basically like freeze an arm
Holy shit.
rapidly so that it stops blood loss and maintains the tissue without it starting to turn necrotic. Stuff like that. You know, kind of like whenever you have heart transplant, somebody dies and immediately they harvest their heart and put it on ice and then thaw it out and put it in you so that there's no degradation of the material. Same concept, except with tissue on the outside of your body or with your whole body possibly. So that's the hope, is whole body being able to do that. And of course, if we do that, that makes way for deep space flight. That makes way for us being able to visit other solar systems, other planets, all kinds of stuff. The Guardian, right? I know, it's absolutely phenomenal. You know, there's always that hope that one day they will be able to bring Walt Disney back. And when he does, he will be conquering the world. He will be the one who rules all, folks. He is the One Ring.
God. Walt Disney. Oh, jeez.
We have a few articles from the Guardian UK. The world's oldest message in a bottle was found by a beach walker in Australia. Walking along the beach, him and his wife were just like, "Oh, look, an old gin bottle. Looks kind of cool."
Right.
And it was like a black gin bottle. It was 132 years old. They found it wedged in a dune, and
What?
ended up looking inside harder and saw a rolled up piece of paper, and it was one of the first. Go read it, folks. I'm not going to tell you all of it, but
Where's Sting? Where's Sting singing "Message in a Bottle"?
it's wild, dude. It's wild. It was like, oh my god, imagine that, like 132 years in a bottle, and imagine if you open it up and like all it says is like, "This sucks, bro."
This sucks, bro.
Stranded, bro.
Or help me, bro. I think they're a little bit late.
That would be absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I
man.
found your message like 132 years later.
Yeah, exactly. The Guardian UK, Facebook asked users, and this one will blow your mind, folks. When I read this, I was like, are you serious? And now it's come out a lot that Facebook does a lot of surveys, of course, hey, click this. But it came out a few years ago that they teamed up with the CIA with the gold dress, blue dress thing as an experiment to see how people observe stuff and see how observant they are. And how their brain works. And, we already know that the ads on Facebook are based on what we follow. The things on our feed are based on what we follow. They gather all kinds of metric data about us and sell it. But this was interesting. Whenever I saw the article in Guardian UK, Facebook asks users, quote, "Should we allow men to ask children for sexual images?"
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
And I mean, it on Sunday, the social network ran a survey for.
Question?
No, seriously, listen to this. Like, I'm just going to read a little bit here, folks. Just a couple little paragraphs. On Sunday, the social network ran a survey for some users asking how they thought the company should handle grooming behavior. Quote, "There are a wide range of topics and behaviors that appear on Facebook." One question began. "In thinking about the ideal world where you could set Facebook policies, how would you handle the following? A private message in which an adult asks a 14-year-old girl for sexual pictures. The options available to responses ranged from, quote," this is a quote, folks, "this content should not be allowed on Facebook and no one should be able to see it," to, quote again, "this content should be allowed on Facebook and I would not mind seeing it." The second question asked who should decide the rules around whether or not adult men should be able to allow or should be able to ask for pictures that are sexually explicit on Facebook. Options for that choice included Facebook users decide the rules by voting and telling Facebook, or Facebook decides and rules its own. So, yeah, really weird stuff, man.
What the? Yeah.
Like, what the hell? Out of the Guardian, we have a couple more out of Guardian UK. One crazy one was the headline is "Teenager Given Life Sentence for Planned Attack on Justin Bieber." The boy, 17, wrote a martyrdom letter, the police said, in South Wales, and found a claw hammer and gutting knife in his school rucksack. He said that he was a soldier of the Islamic State and was ready to make a message. The Guardian UK also gave us the headlines about the first sustainable Lego pieces to go on sale. There'll be plants and stuff like that, but they're made out of plant-based plastic from sugarcane leavings and stuff like that. Pretty dope.
Yeah, interesting.
Not PVC plastic, so good stuff. Way to go, Lego. Always inventing and moving forward.
Lego.
National Geographic, crazy article, faceless toad found jumping around in a forest. In Connecticut, there was a group of researchers that are reptile and amphibian researchers researching the American toad, and they kept feeling something jumping around their feet and bumping into them. And one of them finally looked down, and it was literally a toad that had no head.
Whoa.
And if you go click on the article, folks, look at the picture, and it will blow your mind. It will absolutely blow your mind, because it's like, wow, like that frog is shoulders, abdomen, and tail. That's it.
Oh,
no
shit.
head or brain to speak of. Wild stuff.
That's wild.
Another article out of National Geo was ancient African huts and what they reveal about the Earth magnetic flips of the Earth's poles, So basically what it's telling you is that through research in African huts and the clay in the huts and the iron found in the clay, that they see it pointing at different directions at different times, and it's a regular interval, and we are overdue for a polar flip. That means like North Pole becomes South Pole. Imagine spinning a quarter on a table, and instead of it spinning flat, it continuing to spin and completely turning upside down.
Or your toilet will flow the other way.
Yes. The Coriolis effect would take place in the northern hemisphere instead of the southern hemisphere, and our toilets would then swirl clockwise. So, or counterclockwise, rather. Anyway, that's an interesting one. Another one, Independent UK, man declared dead moments before autopsy wakes up. He was apparently brain dead, and they took him down for autopsy and came out of the state of brain deadness.
That happens quite a lot throughout history, recorded. I can't imagine being thought dead and you're about to be buried or something. And you come back to life. You're like, wait a minute, bro, I'm not dead.
Yeah, right.
I can't imagine.
Two more, and then we'll get into the meat of stuff. Yahoo News: sex to boost film career is, quote, not rape. Harvey Weinstein's lawyer says. He says, quote, and more than 100 women have accused Weinstein of inappropriate conduct going back 40 years. But his lawyer Braffman argues that, quote, if a woman decides that she needs to have sex with a Hollywood producer to advance her career and actually does it and finds the whole thing offensive, that's not rape. Quote, you made a conscious decision that you're willing to do something that is personally offensive in order to advance your career. He added. Yeah, and I don't really know about that, but it is a choice that you've made. Like if he forces you into it, if he drugs you, if he makes you drink, whatever. But if he's like, hey, if you sleep with me, I'll give you this part, and then you give him the part.
Right.
And or he gives you the part. Whichever way you want to look at it. Yeah. Is it a quid pro quo? Is it the fact that you exchanged yourself and your services for that? That's for the courts and for the court of public opinion to decide. So we'll see. The final headline here, because I had to talk about it, Yahoo News tells us that, quote, Pharma Bro asked judge for leniency because he says he was a fool. And like I said on Facebook when I saw it, you know what? Eat it and choke on it, Pharma Bro. Eat it and choke on it. Take your medicine, son. Your very, very expensive medicine.
Oh, God.
So that's the news in the week. Feel free to go. There's about another 10 or 15 articles that we've posted this week. Once again, feel free to come join the Dudes and Beer public group on Facebook. It's an open group. We have all kinds of discussions and debates regarding articles like this. And Steve, I want to kind of get into that first article. If you zoom back up there, that Google is helping the Pentagon build AI for drones.
Right.
And we've talked about this stuff before, and you and I'm trying to find somebody that is a professional, maybe a former drone pilot, something like that.
Right.
But we've talked a lot about drones on this show, you and I.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Not just personal drone use, but federal drone use, government drone use. The fact that the NDAA a few years ago allowed for the droning of American citizens.
It's in its infancy in a way, and it's already being mishandled and misused. So it's like, and now we got more additions to it, it seems. And it's like, dude, we ain't even doing it right now from the get-go,
Yeah. Yeah. And, something that I hear in these conventions all the time, because I see I work a lot of insurance conventions. I work a lot of tech conventions, and the insurance conventions are, of course, worried about the impact of drones and, drones flying over airports. What does that do for life insurance policies? Does that fall under an act of God, or does that fall under, personal negligence on somebody? you know, or, you know, like how is that considered?
So that would be kind of like the scenario of like, you know, say like the flock of geese that got sucked up into the engine of the airplane, right, and made it like emergency landing, right? So like if a drone interfered with the flight of a 747 type of deal, right? Something like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like the story of Sully, like
right?
The movie Sully, exactly.
Right.
And you know, don't get me wrong, like to an extent, modern passenger planes are somewhat drone-ish. There is full-on autopilot where things take over and, you know, will go, and the pilot is there to take over manually and to make sure that switches get flipped at the right time and coordinates get put in and all that kind of stuff. But whenever you say drone, you really do have to think about it, I think anyway, in a much broader aspect than just the little buzzy things in the sky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, whenever you hear drone, what do you think about, Steve?
Well, I damn well think about the things that I see pictures of and stuff, you know, and like I haven't really seen them like actually active except this one time near my home, and you know, it's this autonomous, you know, flying object. It didn't make a sound, and it's there, and it was observing, and it was freely to roam and do what it wants by whatever civilian that's controlling it. And I can very well see where that could become an issue, especially at the wide range of availability it has, you know, to, you know, civilians and stuff like that, which I'm not saying that we should or shouldn't have, but it is definitely a concern, you know?
Well, yeah, and I mean, you can go look up videos of people that have like outfitted their drones with guns and all kinds of stuff. It's crazy. But you know, whenever I hear the word drone, the only thing I think of is, you know, an automated conveyance. You know, like whether it's a smart car that's driving itself. You know, like the upcoming, like what Uber's working on. And stuff like that. You know, like the self-driving buses that they tried putting on the streets in Vegas. That kind of stuff. Those are drones. You know, like they are given a preset point of coordinates and a few instructions on general traffic rules and laws.
Like how you said, a few.
And, well, you know, I mean, a few million lines of code, few, you know, but there are really only a few traffic laws out there that you need to know to drive a vehicle safely.
Right. Yeah.
Like, use a blinker. You know, obey the speed limit. It's
just they're lacking the humanistic or human instinct of, like, you know, in case the scenario didn't go as planned, what do you do now, you know?
Well, and that's exactly where the AI comes in, brother. That's where the AI part of this comes in, is that Google is helping the Pentagon build AI for drones. So sure, we have drones right now. You know, like you can go online and check out the video of the guy at the convention talking about the drones and the smart drones, and he goes to touch it and it like moves away from him and then circles around him and it's flying itself.
Oh shit.
You know, it is a self-piloting drone. But the AI would allow a drone to take evasive maneuvers in a different way. The AI would give the drone like artificial intelligence. It would be able to find its way around problems on its own without a pre-programmed experience. You know? And when you're talking about that, then you're kind of getting into the realm of you know, all those things that the UN's been trying to pass about autonomous weapons, about like no autonomous weapons systems. You know, I guess people finally started watching Terminator.
Finally
started seeing it as a maybe Jimmy Cameron was on to something.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So
Hollywood mirrors reality so many times. Yeah.
Oh God, so much, dude, so much. And like that's what I see with the drones. That's where I see the issue is without regulation, it will get to the point that like the sky is cluttered.
Right, you know? Right.
And you know, what are you going to do when you're driving down the road in your car and a delivery drone just falls out of the sky?
Exactly.
You know, because an engine gave out. or something like that. So, or a motor, not an engine. They have motors, Chris. They're electric. Engines work on combustion.
I've recently seen an advertisement of a drone company that selling to just the average person a drone for video purposes that will follow you. Like, you can be running or riding a bike or doing something, but as long as you program it, it will follow you, and you tell it, follow me from behind or follow me in front.
Actually, what it is, it's a GPS locator.
Right.
That you wear, and you tell it, like, you tap up top if you want it to be in front of you, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's wild, dude. They show them just like throw it and start driving down the road, and it's following the car, all that kind of stuff. That's
like some stuff you would, like, way back or whatever in filming in Hollywood days, that it would take a lot of manpower and production to do, and you can do it just on your own now with the little drone that you program.
You needed a chopper for the day. You needed a stabilization rig. You needed a dude willing to, like, hang out of a chopper holding a camera.
Yeah. It cuts all that out.
Well, and if you remember, man, there was a night a long time ago where there was some crazy shit going on in the world, and we got to witness. It wasn't necessarily a drone; it was an automated robot or a operated robot. But whenever the Dallas police shootings happened, that was a full-on case of, like, they didn't use, like, tear gas to get the guy out.
No.
They didn't use, like, a bomb disarming robot with a tear gas grenade.
Right.
They sent in a bomb robot with a straight-up grenade.
Yeah.
And, like, grenaded the dude.
Yeah.
And people were just, like, okay with that.
No judge, no jury.
No judge, no jury. No, like, hey, let's maybe try and take him alive and find out what's going on.
Right.
They just blew him up. And it was just kind of like in the news and gone.
Right.
And it was like, yo, anybody want to talk about that guy that the police just, like, purposely blew up?
Yeah.
Just, like, made a paint stain on the wall out of?
Right. He was held up in that parking garage. It's like, okay, we know. We got his ass surrounded too. He's gonna have to come out eventually or die where he's at.
Hey, put your gas masks on and smoke him out, bro.
Right.
Like, that's what you do to every drug dealer in the country. You don't just throw live grenades in there and go, "Yep, job done. See ya."
Well,
no more drug dealer. No more drug dealer, kids.
Like, a month ago, literally last month, it was a neighborhood like real close to home base here locally, and it was reported on the news that this dude was in his house and might have abused his wife, who went next door. They said they sent in a drone, but he was dead. I guess it went in for a reconnaissance type style. It didn't blow anything up, but they said they used a drone to find out, oh, okay, he's in the room, but he's dead,
Well, and that's the thing is that number one, they've used robots for years, not just in law enforcement, but in explosives ordnance disposal, in the military, all kinds of stuff, and that's great, and it's fantastic technology, and it saves lives, and it lets you, like, see an explosive from a distance, and possibly disarm it. And if it does go off, there's no loss of life.
Right.
And that's awesome. But as soon as you put a weapon on that robot,
oh, that's a different story.
It's cool if it's a manned operator, I guess.
Right.
But even then, like, why would you go for a kill shot if you have the opportunity to wean him?
Right.
And take him alive.
Exactly.
Yeah. And find out what's going on and make him pay for the crime.
That's overuse of force.
Yeah. It was a definite overreach of force by the police force, and it was just kind of accepted.
Right.
And I can understand that, I guess, from a certain extent, because, hey, the guy capped off a few cops.
Right.
And those cops weren't doing anything.
Right.
They were just protecting people that were marching.
Right.
Is this their constitutional right? So, yeah, it's messed up, and I'm kind of curious sometimes what people think about it and how they consider these things coming into our life. You know, once you put once you put a weapon on it, that's one thing. Now teach that flying or driving weapon to arm itself.
Oh, geez.
To go hunt, kill. You know,
make that determination on its own.
Yeah. To me, that's a little troublesome, and that may just be a slight overreach of technology.
Yeah.
You know, and you really do have to take it back to that great friggin' Jeff Goldblum line from Jurassic Park that I quote all the time. You know?
What's that?
Well, it's the fact that you were so busy trying to find out if you could, you didn't stop to think if you should.
There you go. That's a good one.
You know? Like, you were so busy trying to figure out whether or not you could clone a dinosaur from millions-year-old DNA and bring it back to life, you didn't stop to think if you should do that.
Damn.
You know, not just the ethical boundaries, but like the danger boundaries. Think about it. Like right now, one of the articles I posted this week, articles like this don't typically make the Dudes and Beer News of the Week stuff because they're just fun articles. You know, that are like, whoa, check that out.
Yeah.
We talk about scientific discoveries and stuff like that in the articles. But the other fun articles are ones like the 35-pound python that had like a 31-pound baby deer in its stomach in Florida.
Damn.
And yeah, but the thing is, pythons are not native to the United States, and they've become one of the largest problems in Florida because people get them and then they get big and they just go let them go in the woods.
Dang.
And it's called, if you remember, there was a whole Simpsons episode where, you know, they went to Australia and Bart brought his frog with him. And Marge is like, Bart, get rid of that. And he puts it in the fountain at the airport and it skips off. And when they leave, you see the frogs have multiplied into millions and they're like locusts, like eating all the crops in Australia, you know, and it's like, it's called invasive species. And it happens all the time. We use it to our advantage. Not many people know, because of course, one thing that they've tried doing with invasive species lately, let's just say, for example, is genetically modified mosquitoes.
What?
Yeah. Absolutely. Mosquitoes that have like cures for viruses in them, like cure for hantavirus, stuff like that. So if you live in like a jungle area where water could make you sick, if you get bit by a mosquito, it could actually cure you of what the water is doing to you. Stuff like that. But a prime example of how that can go wrong is, I believe it was the University of Florida years ago went through a genetic breeding program to find the best thing that could eat mosquito larvae. So, you know, not necessarily mosquitoes once they become mosquitoes, but the little worms that live in the water that become mosquitoes. And what they found was the love bug. You know, the little black fly bug with the red head where they join together and there's just like clouds of them everywhere. Yeah, there didn't used to be naturally clouds of them everywhere, folks, just so you know. They were were genetically bred and husbandried to multiply faster and mate more aggressively.
Dude,
so that they would grow,
crazy.
so that they could go and release like 100,000 eggs of them, you know, 100,000 larvae that would eat mosquito larvae. Then they grow up, breed, and there'd be twice as many. And now, if you live in the South, everyone knows what springtime is. You're driving down the road and like you can't even put enough windshield wiper fluid in your car. You know, driving down places like Louisiana, Alabama, anywhere where there's a good amount of water. Where swamps and marshes exist are where these critters are, you know, And it's like that we didn't have that problem with love bugs before I think it was the mid 60s or mid 70s when that program went into place to try and alleviate the mosquito problem in Florida. And it just spread rampantly across the southeastern United States.
Jeez.
They became an invasive species, and we were the ones that did it.
Yeah. It sounds like some Plum Island shit.
Yeah, and that's something interesting to talk about. The issues on Plum Island. Give us a little bit about Plum Island, Steve-O. Let our audience know what Plum Island's all about.
Oh, shoot. I'm going to do it real quick, so it's going to be, skipped over. But
that's all right. We'll get into detail.
Yeah. I can throw out a little bit about it. It's kind of like, Project Paperclip. We brought over this Nazi dude, and then, they set him, head of this island. I want to say it's, off the coast of Massachusetts, if I'm not mistaken. And they were doing experiments, stuff with ticks and mosquitoes and stuff I forget what kind of warfare that's called, but where you could put viruses in those
biological warfare.
Yeah, biological warfare, and set forth by in control of a Nazi that was through Paperclip, and some strange stuff come out of it. It was highly top secret, and still today I believe is. And they come up with these things, and they think the Lyme disease stemmed from that.
That was one thing.
Lyme, Connecticut's real close by.
Yeah, and Lyme disease existed, but not to the extent that it does now.
Right.
And that was the issue, is that they were working. Plum Island is an animal disease center, folks. So basically what they do is they study infectious diseases carried by animals. So things like anthrax, stuff like that, mad cow disease. And they study their applications. They study, what they do. And the goal is to protect America's livestock from disease. But, of course, people have said for years that they have been involved in genetic research and that they have also been involved in the weaponization of these things. If you recall, there was the issue of the Montauk Beast, or the Montauk Monster that washed up. By the way, folks, you were close, Steve-O, but just a few hours away. It's actually in New York. It's off of New York. So, close. Northeast. It was in New England.
It was in New England.
But it's in the town of Suffolk in the Suffolk County, New York, as a matter of fact, if anybody wants to go visit.
Yeah, that Montauk Beast had a beak kind of thing, and just a species nobody knew about. It didn't register
really wild
anywhere.
It was there, and it was gone.
It was gone, all right.
Nobody really knows what happened to the body.
Right.
They came and took it, and it was just gone.
Right.
No information ever came out about it. There are pictures of it.
Or the police report of the body that was found, remember? Of the long fingers with the holes in the head?
Yep.
Yeah. Police report written on that one.
Give me just a second, because I actually just pulled up the active Homeland Security profile page for Plum Island Animal Disease Research Center.
Whoa.
So here's just a little synopsis, folks. Since 1954, the DHS and S&T Office of National Laboratories, or ONL, Plum Island Animal Disease Center, PIADIC, has served as the nation's premier defense against accidental or intentional introduction of transboundary animal diseases, aka foreign animal diseases, including foot and mouth disease. PIADIC is the only laboratory in the nation that can work on live FMD virus. So the lab and its staff of nearly 400 employees provide a host of high-impact, indispensable preparedness and response capabilities, including vaccines, R&D, diagnostics, training, and bioforensic, amongst other disciplines. So that is just like a smattering. That's just like hey, this is what it's about. This is what we do. But the important thing there to notice is that they work on live viruses.
Yeah.
All right? Which means, like, they are actively infecting animals.
Exactly.
Should any of those animals get loose, you have the situation of the movie and the book Outbreak.
Right.
By Michael Crichton, which was actually with Morgan Freeman and Dustin Hoffman.
Or how about The Stand by Stephen King?
Yeah. And, it's just like, what do you do with that? Like, how do you deal with that? Yes, of course we need to protect ourselves from things like that. We need to protect ourselves from stuff like mad cow disease. We need to protect our animals from it and everything else. But do we necessarily – and granted, it's off the coast. It's isolated.
Right.
Only if the animals had wings maybe would they actually make it there. Who knows?
True.
But – even if one was to be smuggled off, if you remember after 9/11, the whole anthrax scare came because of a bunch of white powder and missing anthrax. Anthrax that went missing from a national laboratory.
Right.
So
that's scary as hell.
Yeah. So with things like that in mind, like you can look it up. Let's see. Let's just Google real quick, and you can join in, folks.
Join in.
Yeah, infectious diseases taken from labs. Yeah, and like here are all kinds of articles and stuff about poor oversight catches up with high security infectious agents. That's Scientific American. Just all kinds of articles, all kinds of stuff referring to this and referring to the fact that labs are broken into.
Right.
People smuggle stuff out of labs.
People smuggle shit.
And like. Yeah, like
it's kind of like when you tell people and you hire people and they, you always sign that agreement or you're not supposed to steal from company, right?
What I bet wouldn't smuggle something out of somewhere? An autonomous drone.
That would? An autonomous drone.
I bet you that an autonomous drone would never take something like that.
Right. We can trust him. We can trust Flippy the burger guy.
We talk about it. We talk about it quite a bit. We talked about it with Billy Joe Kane from Radical Empathy, the AI developer, about Moore's Law and about how processors and speed and cooling power and processing power double almost every 6 months. Now, if you notice, that's not what happens on the shelf. No. That's the math, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
And we even talked about that with Levi Sauerbrei from Nerd Butler. Go to nerdbutler.com, everybody. If you want to know like how digital integrates with your life and how to integrate digital with your life, want to learn more about that, go by and check out Levi. He puts out some great content.
Levi.
And really, really posts some great articles about how to better live a digital life. Fantastic stuff. We're working with nerdbutler.com right now. We're very happy to announce that Levi is actually our technical correspondent for technology. So we love talking to futurists. We love talking to people in those industries. So nerdbutler.com and Levi are our official go-to when it comes to technology and stuff like this. So we'll have to continue this conversation with him sometime, Steve.
Yeah, definitely.
Because the episode with him was great, but even he was saying with AI and everything else, things develop in a different way. Once you start having the machine design the better machine, which is the goal. And there's a scientific concept. If you look it up, gray ooze. It was a theory put forth long ago. Whenever robots and artificial intelligence. Yes, gray ooze. Gray ooze. If you Google gray gray ooze.
Yeah. Very interesting.
You'll see. Yeah. Let's see. Or no, maybe it's gray goo. Maybe it's gray goo. Let's see.
Like it made it much better.
Yeah. Yes. It's gray. It's gray goo. Gray goo is what it's called. Gray goo is a hypothetical end of the world scenario involving molecular nanotechnology in which out of control self-replicating robots consume all of the biomass on Earth while building more of themselves. A scenario that has been called ecophagy or ecophagy.
I want to say that I've seen
the environment.
I want to say that I've seen one of these as a scenario for like the end of days type of Armageddon type of scenarios. You know,
actually, there is an entire. It's one of my favorite episodes ever of Futurama.
Whoa.
Yeah, where Bender ends up the professor invents a replicator. Bender eats it. And then, he's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Hey, wait a minute. I got a replicator inside of me. Maybe I'll make a mini-me. Whoop. And, this little Bender, you see a flash, and this other Bender pops out. He's like, hey, me. What's up, big me? You need to go do this. Oh, bite my shiny metal butt. No, seriously, go do it. I'm bigger than you. Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah. And then, the smaller one goes oh, wait, I'm tired of him bossing me around. How about I make me 2 little helpers?
2 little helpers.
So, whoop, whoop, 2 little Benders pop out of him. And then it becomes,
geez.
all over the place. You look inside, army. They go through a mouse hole, and there's this army of thousands of Benders just having this party and drinking beer. And then what ends up happening is because all the Benders are multiplying like that, in that world, in that scenario, robots need alcohol to operate. It's their fuel. So what happens? All the beer and alcohol in the world ends up getting consumed by these things replicating themselves. So in order to change things, they actually multiply themselves down to the subatomic level and start changing water into alcohol. So now the world is in crisis because they're going to drink up all the water. They're going to make all the water in the world into alcohol and consume it, making more of them.
Oh God!
And that's the thing with gray goo. And the concept behind gray goo is here's this artificially intelligent micro nanotechnology. It's made out of 3 or 4 atoms, and it is a machine that has a task. And what it does is it uses biomass. Here's an orange peel. I will use the atoms from that to make more of me.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
And then those things do the same thing. And then it's when the orange peels are gone, well, hey, look, there's a desk. So it's these things just go up like ants and start using the atoms to create more of them. And eventually, all the buildings will be gone, and there will just be this mass of gray goo, this amorphous mass of subatomic nano machines.
Isn't that fucking insane? It's they're microscopic, right?
Yeah. Well, that's just it. They're a billionth.
Yeah.
They're in the billionth range.
It's so fucking sick to even fucking think about.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And that's a nightmare scenario, but a hypothesis that's put forth by a legit friggin' physicist whenever this kind of stuff started coming about.
Right.
Whenever this technology and the ideas behind this technology started happening. So it's what do we do with that?
Right.
What do we do with that? And that's where
if they already have it. I think if they already have this, it's a matter of time before we see this getting out of hand. And
give us some examples of what you might think would happen, Steve.
Well, it's gonna start in our everyday life. Something's gonna happen to where something I can't even imagine with that. That on that scale. I mean, these things are so microscopic, but at the same time, what they can do is just larger than what we can almost perceive. And I don't know if how long it takes for them to whatever, but I mean, most definitely, if it's already made, it's already going to be breached. A moment of being made, there's a time to where it's going to say, oh, that leaked, or and leak is going to be, it was used, we didn't mean it to be used, it escaped or something like that. And so it's got to be seen eventually in our near future, within the next decade, I would say, because I've already heard this for a while now, and that we're gonna see this, and whether or not people know what it is and understand what it is and can can see it and know, oh, I understand, or I've heard of this. I mean, it's going to be something that's going to take effect by this, and it's going to be something either they're going to do on their own, kind of unleashing it to see, let's see what this does, or it's going to be something like, oh, we couldn't contain it, it was a leak, this happened, and they're going to try and cover up, but it's going to be to where we have to determine, to where we put common sense together and be like, holy shit, I think this is this,
Yeah, no, and that's just it. Unfortunately, I think by the time people really realize the full and far-reaching impact, some parts may be unrecoverable.
Right.
Or at least permanently damaged. Yeah. If not unrecoverable. Yeah. And I mean, a prime example, some of this stuff already exists, folks, as far as nanotechnology, things like that. It's already here. Right. And here's an article from 2013 from Industry Tap talking about robotic red blood cells.
Robotic red blood cells.
Yes. Abbott Laboratories in North Chicago is currently testing robotic red blood cells, or reciprocytes, in rats. According to CNN, reciprocytes or according to a CNN report, reciprocytes or mechanical red blood cells will augment or replace human red blood cells, carrying oxygen to the body and enhancing mental and physical performance. Reciprocytes will be built using, quote, molecular assemblers, a kind of molecular printing process in nanofactories. Blood doping, used by some Olympians, is a process by which they improve oxygen of the blood so they can run faster and longer before getting tired. Scientists believe eventually people will be able to run at top speed for 20 minutes and swim underwater for up to 2 hours.
Whoa.
And basically what it is this is like an engineered blood cell that's exactly like a regular blood cell, except through nanotechnology, it traps like 20 times more oxygen in it. And the original concept came out of like utterly great stuff. I mean, of course, if it exists, if it comes out like bam, full on all over the place, we're talking like some super soldier serum here, folks.
Right? Exactly.
You're talking about the fact of living a life 4 or 5 times longer. And what do we do about world population then?
That's why I never saw David Rockefeller buried or a casket.
Well, and the thing is, it came about from beautiful concepts, Imagine if you were to go and get 1/5 transfusion, all right, out of the pints of blood in your body, you went and had 1/5 or even just a pint of nano blood put into you.
Ooh,
all right?
Just the sound of that.
And that nano blood carries 20% more oxygen than the regular blood in your body.
Whew.
Then you go home and you get into a car accident, and you lose half the blood in your body. Guess who has a really, really, really good chance of surviving and not suffering organ failure?
The nano dude.
The dude with the pint of nano blood that carries 20% more oxygen.
Damn.
Because that 1 pint of blood is the equivalent of 5 pints.
So is this on the mainstream now? And can people go get this at the hospital?
I'm trying to say that it came out as like it's there, it's real. But
it's not that mainstream yet, though.
But Let me see.
I have a guarantee that ain't going to like hit a normal hospital in quite a while,
No. And that's just it. It's like one special. Of them that's still being worked on and stuff like that.
And it's just like anything.
From everything
I remember when the iPod, the first one came out. I mean, how many times you got like, okay, yeah, we got the version 2, version 3, or whatever they call it.
When it came out, it was half the size of a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, exactly. And so you have issues, you have glitches. So it's kind of like, okay, what kind of glitch are you going to have with this? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. Like, it was like a 16 gig device. It was almost the size of a pack of cigarettes in size and thickness.
Right.
And within 5 years to 6 years, went down to the size of 2 postage stamps.
Damn.
Think about it. Like the micro.
Right.
The one that's just like tiny.
Yeah, tiny.
And it's 16 gigs.
Jeez, yeah.
It's the exact same amount of memory that the base iPod came out with.
Right. Then you talk about this nano blood, just the, like when it's in its infancy, it's like, it sounds awesome. Anything they throw out there, we find, it's so dope, but actually we don't know until the long term,
yeah,
let's get it in effect. Like, let's start using it 5-10 years. Then we find out, what it really does,
And that's what people don't that's what escapes most people, Stephen. You just hit the friggin' nail right on the head. Like, that is such a crux statement. And it's the fact that, if it exists in one form, like once it comes out on the market, that means it's been tested for 10 to 20 years.
Right.
Same thing that we said in the episode about the space war program that they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just launch a space core in a year and a half, folks. I'm here to tell you, it took us a decade to get to the moon.
Right.
So if you're talking about people like spending extended amount of periods in space, operating space-based weapons, going back and forth on a regular basis, things like that, the same way that because, hey, guess what? If you're a space pilot, you're going to have to be flying around in a spaceship, and you're going to have to practice that.
Yep.
And you can only do so much simulator time, folks. You can ask any pilot. Eventually, you're behind the stick, and you're over the wing, and that's just it. The only way it happens is through years and years and years of testing. So if they're ready to put a space core into place in the next 3 to 5 years, that means they've been working on it for 20.
Right. Yeah.
Prime example is just go do a little bit of research on the F-117, the stealth fighter, which is getting ready to be replaced. Getting ready to be cycled out of the U.S. arsenal.
Once Area 51 secret, right?
But the first use of it was the takedown of Manuel Noriega just before its premiere debut in Operation Desert Storm.
Whew.
If you recall. But the takedown of Manuel Noriega was something that was done between government officials there, surrounding countries, and their armies, as well as American intelligence and special forces. And it was the premier use of the F-117.
Damn.
Where, he never saw it coming. It was just there.
Damn.
And that began the salvo. And that was where we first heard about it. The Skunk Works had been flying copies of it, and the Have Blue program first took place in the mid-'70s. And the first time we heard about it was in 1989.
Which means they were at it so long before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they got the contract because they had something half the size of a regular airplane in mock-up, and that's how they got the contract to make the F-117. Was there were a few companies competing, just like always, and whenever they went out for
Boeing,
it, the Skunk
Lockheed.
Works, the Lockheed Skunk Works is the one that won out. They've made just about every secret plane we have, folks. They made the U-2. They made the SR-71. They made the F-117.
I thought Bono made U2. No, I'm just joking.
Bono made U2 famous. Good Mr. Lockheed designed the U2.
Yeah, he sure did.
But the Skunk Works has done just about every major spy plane or high technology plane that we've had in our intelligence arsenal for years and years. And the Have Blue program was the program that the stealth fighter and the stealth bomber came out of. And the original goal was we want an aircraft with a half-size cross-section on radar.
Right.
For those of you that don't know what that means when radar, the way radar works is it is a high impulsive sound, just like a bat.
Mm-hmm.
High impulsive sound that goes out, bounces off something.
Right.
And with a known reflective distance of that sound, some of it goes just out and some of it bounces off objects.
Right.
And with that, and with repeated pulses, you can tell the distance as well as the size of the object.
Right.
What stealth technology does is it takes advantage of not only radar absorbing materials, classified top secret, totally proprietary to the Skunk Works.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, they came up with the materials.
Oh, very interesting.
And the chemistry behind the polymers
Yeah.
used to absorb radar. And it's
Very
been a
interesting.
closely held secret for years and years.
Oh, I
But
bet.
yeah, there's actually radar absorbing materials on all of the stealth aircraft as well as on the SR-71 Blackbird. But what also helps is the odd angles.
Right. If you can look at you look at the design of it, I mean, it has odd angles, you know?
And the reason for that is because radar reflects off of flat surfaces.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the more angles you have, that means that when the radar hits it, it's
Right.
going to scatter like a disco
Right.
ball instead of coming directly
And
back.
I've heard, you know, like stories or, you know, things that I read
Yeah.
that like the F-17 and whatnot with the stealth technology, like on
Yeah.
radar, it would look no bigger than say like a sparrow or a
Yep.
bird on the radar.
That was the radar cross section
Right.
of the F-117 stealth fighter, the F-117A. The A stands for attack. The F-117A stealth fighter had a radar cross section of approximately a sparrow.
Right.
So yeah, really fast sparrow.
So in a way, if you're a very observant radar guy, I mean,
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
I think I have a sparrow on my radar.
Yeah,
Are you sure? I think so, but it's going 800 miles an hour. We may want to verify it.
This sparrow's got someplace to be, brother.
This sparrow's got some wheels, son.
He's late for dinner or some shit.
Mad skills, sparrow, mad skills. Like,
son, that's no sparrow, son.
yeah, exactly. Good eye, boy.
Yeah, you gotta watch that shit. But I guess as you're a radar technician, I don't know about the ones that they got now. I'm sure it's more sophisticated probably than the ones I have in my brain. But it's like if you see some dot like
You
that.
have radar operators in your brain, bro?
Yeah, the radar in my brain. But, you know, it's like, I mean, come on. You're sitting there watching radar. So it's kind of like watching, a sparrow. What would that show up on the radar as or whatnot? And then at the same time, we know, if he's hauling 800 miles an hour, that ain't a sparrow. But then you got to have a very diligent person watching that damn radar for 800 mile per hour sparrow.
Yeah. And
it's gonna be tough.
It was amazing technology when it came out. Whenever you consider the fact that the Have Blue program first started, and like I said, it was like amongst them and Northrop Grumman and Boeing.
Oh yeah, Northrop Grumman.
They were all vying for the contract, and they were all working on something.
Mm-hmm. Government cheese.
But the Lockheed team won out because their mock-up, the deal was it had to be half the size of a fighter plane. so that we had a decent cross section, all that kind of stuff. So they brought out something half the size of a plane, and when the radar tests were done, they had something that showed up approximately the size of about a yard or so.
Damn.
First time out the gate, bam, just like a home run. And granted, tons of research. The Lockheed was a genius, just straight up. He was like Howard Hughes level.
Right,
genius.
right. Well, he did have some of the
Just
fucking
not crazy.
scientists that did work for Howard Hughes, yeah.
And so that's some of the history. I'm a huge aviation buff, especially aerospace stuff like that, especially our space program and fighter jets. I always wanted to be a fighter pilot. And my back issues and my horrible math and lack of wanting to be in the military kept me from doing so. Note the last one. Lack of wanting to be in the military.
He went all around it. They don't fit in the cockpit, son.
No, my feet wouldn't fit in the cockpit. And I remember one time I was talking with the Air Force recruiter, and it was all about it. And he was like, well, what would you want to do? Like I went to the ASVAB and they wanted to put me in intelligence, all that kind of stuff. And that's cool.
No.
And I was like, quite honestly, I'd want to fly. And he's like, you don't nearly have the math skills to fly.
Nah, that's him saying you were too tall.
Plus, with your eyes the way they are, there's no way you could pass the eye test to be a Air Force pilot.
Jesus.
So, no. And at that point, I was like, well, sounds like I don't have a military career. See ya.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And I went and joined the seminary to become a priest.
Hey, there you go. Much safer ground.
And now I'm an AV technician.
There you go.
What a journey.
Yeah, what a journey.
But that's like the technology behind stealth, the technology behind doing stuff like that, to know that we have manned drones that are stealth. Like
it's a little too much. It's a little too much too. I think we keep pushing for technology and jumping too soon of the belt or whatever it's called.
Well, and I'm trying to have an author on the book that I've in the middle of reading, and I don't have it with me. I can't even remember the title offhand. But the idea behind the book is, of course, in business, but in life itself, like. The digital world has moved so fast that we have yet to develop a new form of ethics.
Right, yeah.
Like, we need to, number one, like, we don't have a unified form of ethics across the world culturally to begin with.
It's a leap, like, not just from day to day. It's like
Well, it's the fact of, like he said, like, I sat there and talked with him for a while at the last convention I worked here in Houston when he was signing his book. And I was like, I read 3 or 4 chapters last night and just poured through it. It was fantastically written because it goes through these moral concepts in story form. And it's great. And really kind of puts forth this concept of like, are we really thinking before we leap?
Yes.
And,
yes.
That's like I said, you were so busy thinking about whether or not you could do it, you didn't stop to think whether or not you should.
Yep.
And when I was talking with him, he was like, most people don't realize Moore's law. They don't realize how fast technology moves. And the fact is, we as a society of humanity don't have a unified field of ethics to begin with. So when we use something like the internet and technology to unify us as humanity, number one, we don't have a similar ethical principle to begin with.
Right.
And now we're moving into a realm that doesn't even have an ethical principle written for it.
Right. We don't even have guidelines for the territory we're going into.
Exactly.
Yet we keep pushing.
And yet still we wonder why there are issues.
Right.
You see?
Yeah, it's such a crazy time to live in right now.
Yeah, and it's just progressing so fast. Art Bell, you're a big fan. I'm a big fan.
God, yeah.
He's half the reason I got into broadcast was to work with the man, and I'm very happy to say I have spoken to Tom Danheiser on the radio numerous times. Had him in my phone at one point as a contact. I've spoken to George Norrie and said, "Please hold, sir, while I get the host."
Yeah,
things like that.
Nice.
It's great. I loved it.
Beautiful.
It was awesome. I loved it.
So sick.
Because I'm such a fan of Coast to Coast. I'm such a fan of things
Me
like
too.
Clyde Lewis. And, Art Bell wrote a book with Whitley Strieber called The Quickening.
Yes.
And it was basically about the rapid succession of technology and not only the current flow of it, but the rapidity with which it will move forward. And it's very much the same concept that this ethicist and business guru was talking about in the fact that it's moving so fast that we literally cannot catch up.
Can't restrain it, can't ride it, like to keep
and that's
it.
Just it.
We can't.
That's just it. At this point, all we can do is start realizing it and start putting restraints in place.
Control it.
Not stopping it, but restraining.
Right.
Because otherwise, by Moore's law, that means in 2 or 3 years, if we don't start restraining things, if you think there's problems now, bro.
Right, exactly.
If you think there's problems now, if you think there's problems with Facebook asking grown men in questions whether or not sexually explicit pictures of 14-year-olds should be allowed, and an option is that's cool.
I'm kind of like, should that even be a question? It's like, god damn, dude.
But the thing is, and that's what I'm saying, like, it's an interesting concept here, Steve. We're going to go into thinking deeply mode real quick, all right?
Do it.
For those of you that don't tune in regularly, please check out the Thinking Deeply episodes of Dudes and Beer. It's a totally different adjunct, just like Dads and Beer, where we really, really dig deep into certain concepts and memes in society. Dads and Beer is really where we dig in deep about like how men are men and how we want to raise a new generation of men to change the world in the future, things like that. It's the only multi-generational conversation on humanity on the internet.
Love it.
But it's it's the fact of the Olympics brought things to light. Whenever you're saying 14-year-old, no way. Let's just hop into the Wayback Machine here. Number one.
All right.
And remember and not even the Wayback Machine, but the Way Over There Machine, because a lot of cultures in the world
different,
different are mindset. The people as technologically as advanced as us, and with the access to technology and the access to the news every day and everything else, are the minority in the world. Okay? Most people in the world live in second world to third world countries.
Okay.
All right?
Right.
They do not have access to the internet the way that we do. They do not have access to cell phones the way we do.
Right.
That's why, like, we have this society of immediacy. If you go to tribal cultures, like, that's one of the issues in the Middle East, is the fact that the culture is totally different.
Right.
They're still very much driven by Bedouin tribal law, Bedouin tribal rule, things like that.
Right.
Bedouin tribal traditions.
Right.
And that is the tradition of multiple wives, like Abraham and Moses, people like that. No different. Mm-hmm. So in that aspect, like people are like, oh my God, Mary was like a mother at 15 back in that day. It's like, yeah, but the thing is, if you were 17 and unmarried, your family was really worried.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you were not betrothed for marriage or married by the age of 14 or 15, there was a problem.
Right.
Like maybe you weren't desirable.
Right.
No,
totally. I mean, like you're saying,
That's the society. And that's the way that is. And are we to belittle that culture if that is a culture that has worked for them for thousands of years?
Right.
By our moral compass, it's wrong. But by theirs, it's the everyday, and our listening of Motley Crue is wrong, which is why our episode got banned in Iraq. You see what I mean?
No, I see it, yeah.
Because if you remember, we had an episode banned in Iraq.
Yeah, I remember. yeah.
And it was because of the use of Motley Crue in it.
Nice.
So, yeah, you know, like, our culture thinks of dogs as a second person in the household. You just lost a dog in your family, Steve, and I'm very sorry to hear that, because they are very much in our culture.
And I got another one that may be going, so it's like,
I know. The other one is not doing well either. So prayers for Steve-O's dogs, folks. Julie's dog's unfortunately doing very well. Horatio is doing great, and I love hearing that. He's a great little pup. And Julie is doing well. So wish she was there this evening. I know she was busy with Liam and stuff like that. But going back to what we were talking about, the animals. It recently came out with the Winter Olympics being in South Korea. Mm-hmm. You know, like miles away from the Olympic Stadium is the dog meat market.
Ooh, okay.
Where you can go and
can actually buy dogs to eat.
Yeah. And granted, hey folks, here's the thing. Number one, culture and tradition that's been happening for 1,000 or so years in a country. They don't go on the street and just pick up dogs and take them home and barbecue them. All right? They don't go to the adoption agency.
Jeez.
And
I'm trying to restrain myself. Yeah.
You know, I'm kind of thinking about cooking up a 20-pound dachshund for the family this weekend. Right. You know, graduation's coming around. Thought we'd celebrate. Right. No, that's not what it is, okay? Right. It's not like, hey, who wants to get together and have a German Shepherd barbecue Saturday? That sounds like fun. No, there is like a specific breed of dog that is bred for the purpose of meat. And it's been that way, and I'm here to tell you that it's not the only country in the world that does it. There are countries in the world that eat horse. There are countries in the world that eat zebra. There are countries – I've had zebra.
Or on the opposite end, there's other countries that won't eat the cow.
I've eaten lion. There are countries in the world that the cow is sacred.
Right.
Absolutely. And, you know –
we eat the cow.
I ate cow twice today, and I'm prone to do it again, Stephen.
Yeah. So it's kind of like if they looked on us the way we looked on them, you know, it's kind of like, we just got to respect other people's culture, you know.
Yeah, well, and that's just it. You know, you really do have to kind of remove yourself from yourself and look at it from the point of view of, like, why am I judging somebody for something that they eat? Yeah. You know, like, okay, I have 2 dogs. Great. Some of those people eating dog have dogs. Yeah. I'm just here to tell you.
Yeah. yeah.
Your host of this show, ladies and gentlemen, has dined upon the canine.
Wow, interesting.
I have eaten dog, and pretty briskety, just gonna say.
Pretty briskety.
I ate it, and it was there, and I was like, that was awesome. They're like, oh, yeah, just so you know, that was dog.
Just so you know.
Yeah. And it was. That was no lie. And I had it again, because it was good.
Yeah.
I have no problem. You know, a lot of people have a problem with, like, squirrel. I love squirrel. It's delicious. If I had enough room, I would probably raise a bunch of squirrels so I had a regular supply. But it's also one of those, like, what do we do as a world to begin to make that happen? How do we begin to refocus ourselves to where we are not so self-centric, to where we aren't necessarily thinking about a cultural rule in and of ourselves that doesn't apply to other people, or where we aren't trying to apply our cultural rule to other people and their culture when it's something that's totally different. And I think that the issue that we face with the internet, I think the issue that we're facing with the rapid growth of technology and, as it's called at all these conferences that I work, which, by the way, folks, starting a new drinking game for Dudes and Beer. It's called the Internet of Things. Every time we say the Internet of Things, take a drink. So the Internet of Things. I just said it 4 times. That's 4 drinks, folks. There we go. Oh, yes. A couple more there. A couple more. One more there. That's 4 of them for the IoT game. So whenever you hear us refer to that term, feel free to imbibe your beverage, because that's what it's about. So talking about stuff like that, making stuff like that a priority in our life, really trying to solidify what it is that we stand for digitally, what it is that we're trying to not only accept and take in, but what we're trying to share with other people, because it is a world wide web, and we need to consider that. And we need to consider the fact that what we post here in America may be fine and dandy, but across the ocean on another hemisphere, it may be the most offensive thing in a culture.
Yep.
And we haven't had that many episodes. We've only had 1 episode banned in Iraq, and we've talked about some crazy stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
We've done some crazy stuff, and we drink all the time. And right now, I'm here to tell you, I'm not going to tell you what airline I flew in on, but there was definitely a 12-pack of Zoe in my suitcase. Thank you very much to our sponsors, Hops and Grain. We love all the fantastic beverage. Zoe and Mosaic are probably our studio favorites. The new River beer is absolutely fantastic.
Oh, love the River beer too.
The porter's good. I'm not really a huge porter guy, but the porter, and I remember both of us one night had one, and suddenly it was like, oh yeah, that's all right.
Oh
that's
yeah,
good stuff.
I've drank me a lot of porter, and I'm not a porter guy, but man, dude, I drink the Zoe porter, dude, because I'm not a porter guy, but if it is a porter, I go for the Zoe one because man, I drank it, and I love all the other beers they have, Zoe and everything else. They're more my favorite, but guess what? When it comes to a porter, that's the one I go to, and it's great.
Well, and as we wrap up. Once again, we love Hops and Grain. Thank you guys so much. It's been a year. It's been a year since they've been our sponsor, and we really need to go back and do something again with them. We need to get in touch with those guys. Go have another live episode.
Yeah.
We just had a great live 150th episode at our friends Babalu Cigar with owner Jeff Lipton. Our good friend Jeff Gottlieb was there. Many listeners were there, as well as regulars and the staff. Everybody had a good time. They all got Dudes and Beer pint glasses, stickers, all kinds of coupons for P. Terry's.
Yeah.
Things like that. We all enjoyed some great cigars, and we'll be looking forward to – I need to get in contact with Jeff and follow up, but we'll be looking forward to some very special Dudes and Beer specials with Babalu cigars, regular discounts, things like that, coupon codes where you yourself can get your own hand-rolled cigars from the awesome Babalu Cigar Company in Austin, Texas, as well as Dudes and Beer custom ring cigars. Dudes and Beer cigars. We're working on it. It's going to be great. So with that in mind, folks, remember, tune in, get ready. We're getting ready for the Dudes and Beer. Fantasy Football League. There we go. Dudes and Beer Fantasy Football League to start up this fall. We'll be talking with our commissioner, Matthew McPeak, on a regular basis at that point. We'll be having him in to talk about it soon. But until then, keep up with the Dudes and Beer news, Week in the News section. Keep up with the new Dudes and Beer Jumping to Conclusions blog. We're trying to bring you as much content as possible. Just, things to make you go, while you have a beer or two at night. And Steve, man, what do you got to say, bro? let's go out with a banger. What do you got to say?
Dude, shit, man. All our hot topics you need to fucking watch on Dudes and Beer Group. Our group is going to have tons of great fucking stories, man. I love all the ones that we went over tonight. It's a constant world changing out there, and we keep up with it good, and we try to post it as soon as there's things out there. It's a lot of things out there that are changing, and a lot of times people see headlines that it doesn't even seem real, but the world's like that these days, Yeah, the world is there's headlines out there that in news that is science and everything that's changing our world and our everyday life that's new and it's real, and it's we post it as we hear it, which is very on the spot, and it's something to really tune into, and
it's pretty up to the minute. It's pretty up to the minute.
Yeah,
exactly. I post at least a few times a day. There are some things that are auto post. There are some things that I follow a lot of RSS news feeds, and they pop up on my phone, and as soon as they do, I just hit share. And it goes straight there. That's how my program works. That's how the app works. It's great. It's beautiful. And it helps me share things immediately without having to spend a minute and a half to do something.
Because like Flippy the burger guy is, something like that is to a lot of us even today, it's that technology thing that's jumping on leaps and bounds, before we can have guidelines. And it's hey, there's a place in California or wherever that's at, you can actually go, and this thing is making your burger, and it's hey, that's the world that's hitting you whether you like it or not, and it's coming everywhere. It's going to be, it's there, and it's going to spread like wildfire,
Before long, Flippy will go out and start his own franchise.
Yeah. yeah, exactly, right?
He'll register himself as an LLC and start up a franchise.
See, and wouldn't that be something?
And other Flippy robots can get involved and buy their own franchise and get their name back.
And get their name back. Exactly.
On that note, folks, Steve-O, why don't you go ahead and hit that outro for us, my man?
Great Dudes and Beer.
Dude, this was a great 152 episodes that we've had. It was a great night tonight. Steve-O, I love you, my friend.
Love you, brother, man.
I've been on the road way too much.
Yeah.
My Dalbus, I miss my wife, Amy. I miss my Julie. Until next time, everybody, keep up with Dudes and Beer, dudesandbeer.com. You can also catch us on HCUniversalNetwork.com. That is our parent company, as well as our other podcasts, Talking Sound and Yes But Why podcast. Also, check us out on Breach TV. Until next time, everybody, we'll talk to you soon. If you can't be good, be good at it.
For more episodes, content, and information, visit us online at dudesandbeer.com. You can also find our episodes on Breach.tv, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the HC Universal Network family of podcasts. For more about our sponsors and other podcasts on this network, visit hcuniversalnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.